viewers, ShredTheGamer here, and welcome to my Ultimate Review Classic series. And today we are going to review a classic of a game, and that is Parasite Eve. But I'll give you a little brief introduction of what an Ultimate Review is. Basically, in my Ultimate Review, especially the Classic series, I break the game down into 5 categories that I feel are the most important categories in a game, and I give a score for each one, and then I give a final score. I tally it up and a final score. So if you want, get a pen and paper and keep track. Anyways, let's get started with the first category.
The sound.
For those of you that are fans of Square, or in 1998 they were called Squaresoft, which is now Square Enix, would know that they were a juggernaut in the 90s. And one of the things that they did very well in their games was sound, music, sound effects, whatever it was. They were the kings and the masters. And with Parasite Eve, they delivered with an amazing soundtrack and sound effects and atmosphere into a game like nothing I've ever seen before. Even with no sound, the way they... like the no sound of the game. There's scenes where it's just there's nothing, and it just creates this eerie feeling, and it really sets the mood for the game. And it's funny, at first I wasn't sure how I was gonna rate the sound, because I kept thinking, like, a lot of it was the battle music. I didn't like it. I was like, I liked the battle music, but I just wish it was better. I was like, the sound is so good that I wish the battle music was just as epic as like Final Fantasy VII's battle music was. And it's not quite there, so I kept like judging it. So I was like, I don't know. I think I want to give it like a 1.5. And then I listened to the soundtrack at work completely through, and I was like, you know what? The sound in this game is amazing. I mean, the soundtrack alone is all I need to go by. And we could talk about the sound effects, get in the dip of that. But the soundtrack alone gives this game a 2 out of 2 points in the sound category, easy. For those of you that may not agree or are not sure and want a little bit of proof, let me end this category with just the introduction. And I think that's all I need to say.
The controls.
Now with Parasite Eve, in this category, I found no issues with the controls whatsoever. Especially if you play on the PS3 and you get the analog stick going and you get it to where you don't have to use the run button and you just full throttle analog stick and you run the entire time. No real issues, real easy. You know, X, circle, everything. Not difficult at all, not frustrating at all. It's just very simple. I mean, if you want to get a little nitpick that, oh, maybe your character moves a little too slow and it makes it feel a little sluggish, but overall, 2 out of 2 for the controls in this game. They're just simple and easy, and that's all you need. Simple and easy. 2 out of 2. Easy. Enough said.
The graphics.
One of the reasons why I was such a big fan of Squaresoft back in the 90s was that a lot of the games, most of them, had amazing graphics and amazing cinematic cutscenes. And with Parasite Eve, they blew the roof right off the house with that. I mean, you were seeing things that were never done in that time. You were getting state-of-the-art. And for the most part, the game, I would feel, even holds up, because I have a nephew who's 18 years old, and he was seeing some of the gameplay footage that I recorded, and he's like, wow, for a game that's near 20 years old, these graphics are pretty darn good. So I was like, well, right there, that's enough for me to give this game a 2 out of 2 in the graphics, and even in 1998 it was. I mean, the graphics were stunning, and I still, to this day, and I wish they would put a high definition release on it, like they did with Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX on the PC with Parasite Eve, because the graphics still, I believe, hold up, and they're still amazing till this day. So the graphics easily get a 2 out of 2.
The story.
Now in this game, the story starts off very interesting. I mean, with the opening sequence, and you're just really glued into it, and the whole opera scene in the beginning, and boy, oh boy, Square, like, changed the, the saying, it's not over until the fat lady sings. Well, it's not over until the hot-ass girl in a red dress sings. Let me tell you. The game starts off with a bang with the story, glues you in, and then it just kind of, you're just chasing after Melissa, who becomes Eve. Her mitochondria or whatever evolves and that sort of thing. And then I just feel that it's kind of, this is probably the Achilles heel of the game, is the story. It's not as in depth as it should be, especially in an RPG, but I guess it makes sense because of the length of the game. So they really can't, it's more or less, you gotta like compare it to like how a Resident Evil story. But even then, I still feel that that's probably the weakest category in this entire game, is the story. And then the game offers two endings, and if the ending that you get at the end of the game, it's kind of like, wow, geez, like what exactly does that mean? I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's like, what does that mean? Like, does it mean this? Does it mean that? I think it means this, but you're just kind of like, what did that really mean by that ending? I mean, I have an idea what it means, but is that really what it means? I don't know. Sure, I could go online and read what other people mean or what it's supposed to mean, but the game itself should tell me what that means, and it's just kind of like, I wasn't that sure. So it's kind of disappointing in the ending. Now, granted, when you move on to the extra game and go through the Chrysler building and you do all that sort of thing, then you get the true ending, but it's like, man, did you really have to do that? Like, couldn't I have the alternate ending after the Chrysler building? I don't know. So I really feel that was the weakest category, and that's why I give this game a 1 out of 2 for the story. I felt that it could have been better. It could have been better. Even though I did like the story, I felt it could have been a little bit better.
The gameplay.
Now let's get on to the most important category of all games, and that is the gameplay. It's always about the gameplay, and Squaresoft delivered in this game. I would say I don't think I've ever seen an RPG play this way, and it kind of gives you like a Resident Evil turn-based-ish type of gameplay. And I'll tell you what, for people who are not sure about RPGs and want to get into RPGs, Parasite Eve is a great game to get into as a stepping stone for RPGs. Because it's a little bit more action, you get to move your character around more, because a lot of people with turn-based combat, they don't like the fact that they stand still. They want to be able to move their character around. Where this game is still basically turn-based, but you can move your character around. It's a little bit more like a Tales type of thing. And gives the game a lot more action, a lot more fun. Obviously, there's level progression. It wouldn't be an RPG if you didn't have it. You get to change your weapons. You get armor. You get to upgrade your weapons and armor. You can put abilities on them, and you can change abilities through these tools. And there's a couple of varieties of tools. There's a regular tool and a super tool, and they all do certain things. But it's cool because you can take a gun that you may like, and then find a better gun, and take the attributes of this gun and put it to the more better gun, and just keep going through that, and eventually make like an ultimate weapon for yourself. And that was I really liked the way they did that. Same thing with the armor. Now, as you change weapons, that'll change, but armor doesn't change your appearance, which is fine. Most RPGs back in the 90s were like that. And Parasite Eve is just such a fun game, and it's because of the gameplay and the way they did it. I talk to people that don't even like RPGs, and they'll be like, oh, that Parasite Eve game is just awesome because the gameplay is just amazing. So, obviously, I'm going to give this game a 2 out of 2 for the gameplay. I don't see why, Enough said.
Enough said. Enough said. Shred, you screwed up. How can you talk about Parasite Eve gameplay and not talk about all the boss battles, or at least show some boss battles? How can you do that, Shred? You know what? Let the narrator take over this. I'll show you how it's done. Alright, viewers. If you like games that offer boss battles, Parasite Eve has got you covered. There are plenty of boss battles in this game, and a lot of good ones too. I mean, heck, you even face a fire-breathing T-Rex. Now that is enough said. The final score.
The final score of this game, and if you've been keeping track, obviously it's pretty simple. There was only 1 point lost in in all 5 of these categories. So this game easily gets a 9 out of 10. Parasite Eve, at the time, it's really that good, and me just finishing it now, I was still blown away, and it deserves a 9 out of 10. I don't know why I never finished it back then, but it impacted me greatly, and I had to go out and buy it again, and I did. And I went back and I played it and had a blast playing it. And I hope some of you guys out there who haven't played it, after watching this review, will be willing to go out and play it, because the game is just amazing. And it still holds up, and I hope they make an HD remaster. Either remaster the game in high def as is, or do like what they're doing with the Final Fantasy VII, because it truly deserves that. Parasite Eve is just one of those games that really just stands out. It's one of the games that shows how amazing Squaresoft was back then, and you really just can't go wrong. If you like survival horror and you like RPGs or whatever, this is a game for you to play. Even if you're a 10-year-old kid, go out there and play it. Of course, it is an M-rated game, so you shouldn't play it until you're 17 anyways. But it's just a game that you need to go out and play if you haven't played it, if you're into this sort of thing. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please subscribe if you already haven't to. And anyways, this is ShredTheGamer, and until next time, I will shred you later.